Hey guys, it's me Jenny, and I'm going to do something I haven't done in a very long time. I'm going to do a movie review. What? I haven't done a movie review for probably years. I think the last kind of things I used to do was like Netflix reviews. But I want to talk about Frozen 2 because um, I watched it yesterday with some friends, and I honestly haven't really been able to stop thinking about it. I think I've been in a bit of a procrastination hole today. But the thing that I've been getting from most people I've talked to about it is that they don't say it's as good as the first one, and I'm of the unpopular opinion that I prefer the second one. And yeah, I've actually it's been like in my brain and I haven't been able to get it out. So I want to talk about it and be the unpopular opinion, even though it is a popular movie that is out right now and that a lot of people might be watching it. And if I tag it, people might watch this review and then I might get some hate, but who cares? I'm going to talk about how much I love this movie and how much I prefer it to Frozen 1. And I've only got so much time because my phone will run out of space. But here we go. So one of the things I will say about Frozen 1 is I can remember watching it, and I went to the cinema with my sisters in Edinburgh in the snow in winter. And I can remember like it being the most perfect situation because we walked out of the cinema and it had Let It Go rolling through my head, and I was with my sisters, and it was like so close to being what should have been a perfect experience. But I can remember leaving the cinema feeling slightly hollow, and feeling like I could feel the script being rewritten during the film. And like I love the songs. Like I love the song. Like don't get me wrong, Let It Go is the most iconic song you can get. And in comparison to Frozen 2, I'd say Frozen 2 does not have the same impact with the songs. The songs are a lot more personal, a lot more intimate, and I think they say a lot more, but they don't have the same kind of show-stopping quality of the songs from Frozen 1. And that could be because since then we've had two shorts, and so the sheer amount of music that's been put out by Frozen as a entity kind of has watered down the effect a bit. I really enjoyed, and I have to look up the name. This is my point. I really enjoyed Show Yourself. I love that song and I've been listening to it a lot. But again, just not the same impact in terms of the like immediate catchiness of Let It Go. Um, Things that I loved about both the films, visuals. Like the visuals are stunning. Like the way they did water and ice and then hair in water and ice, like those graphically are extraordinary. The costumes are stunning, and they're a big like hey cosplayers, you go out there and do your cosplay. And I loved one of the things I really love that I just want to throw out there really early is Anna's first costume. I want to own that dress. I want to buy that dress. I will wear that dress. She's got like a little bit of wheat in her hair during that first sequence. And that reminded me of Coppelia, the ballet, where there's a whole sequence about a couple that they're engaged but they're not fully engaged, and she's unsure about it, and so they have a whole thing about like shaking the corn, and if you can hear the seeds rattling, it means that the love is true and like it's going to be fruitful. And just that little bit of wheat in her hair made me think of that, and I was like, that's kind of true because there's similar art for her and Kristoff in that. But yeah, like the visuals are just extraordinary. The beautiful is like the music is beautiful as well. But going into the reason why I really love this film more than Frozen 1 is Frozen 1 I left the theatre kind of hollow, and it kind of felt a little bit like oversold, and it felt particularly the way that they subverted a lot of the tropes, which is like one of the reasons why it's so endearing and so well loved. It felt a little bit like an unnecessary rug pull, like the hand situation. Like you know what I mean with this film, where constantly they were like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that trip. Wah! We taught you a lesson. You thought it would be this way, but it's not. So it kind of almost lacked a coherent plotline because there was so much like, is she going to be the villain? No, she's not. Ha ha ha. Is he going to be the hero? No, he's not. That it kind of almost felt like it wasn't telling its own story. It was telling a criticism of stories, which again is one of the reasons why Frozen 1 is so important and so has got such an important power behind it. But this story I felt like was telling an actual story. It wasn't telling like the tropes of a story or criticizing the tropes of the story. It was telling its own thing. So the actual plot is incredibly simple. I think that's one of the things that people are saying is quite weak because it's very predictable. It's Disney, it's a children's film. Having a very predictable plot is part of the nature. Of course, spoiler alert, the mother was from one culture and the father was from the other. Of course she was the one that rescued the father. Of course the grandfather betrayed them. It's so obvious. Like, I wasn't sure about how they were going to do Elsa with the Avatar aspect, the fifth element type aspect. I think they did pretty well with it, and I think they've left it open enough that you can have some speculation, which actually I quite enjoy. My theory on it is that there's kind of like an avatar of the fifth element is created in a generation where it's required. If it's not required, the elements look after themselves. When it is required, then the elements will kind of summon up an avatar. And Elsa, in my opinion, is not like a mythological being now. She's not like an immortal being. She was born, she grew up, she shares this sort of kind of position with her sister. So I don't think she's an immortal being anymore. I think that she is being gifted or loaned this kind of power. And perhaps part of the, like, an avatar before her, the name of the glacier, I can't remember its name right now, I've only seen this film once, was perhaps someone who was a previous avatar of the fifth element and then got lost to the flow of the river, or got lost in the flow of time, like Elsa nearly did. Like she followed down the rabbit hole a little bit too far and she froze. And I've got the feeling that maybe what happened to the previous avatar. That's my theory anyway. So she is still human. I think that would work a lot better than making her this immortal thing, because so much of the story is built around the idea of this sisterly relationship, and there's so much introspection in this film about death and adulthood and maturing, that if you then make one of them immortal, it kind of loses that impact. So my theory anyway is that she is a representative avatar of the fifth element, but will still live, die, and go on to the next thing. And hopefully by the time she dies, in however long it takes, again, not really things that you think about in Disney, but this film was existential as F. Hopefully by the time Elsa passes on, the balances are within the force. The elements. Yeah. One of the things I really love, and again, Let It Go is just such a power ballad and it's such a hit, but it's kind of, in hindsight, a bit of a false confidence, because even though it's meant to be this big, like, outing, it's meant to be her big, like, let it go, I'm free, I'm the cold never bothered me anyway, it is a false self-actualization. It is she's running away from herself. She's not facing herself. Like, that's the reason why she doesn't have control at the end of that power. She is, at the end of that power ballad, she has distance, and it's a temporary distance. She doesn't actually have control, she doesn't actually have understanding, and she doesn't actually have self-articulation or awareness, which is what this film is so much about. Elsa's story is about her discovering genuine self-actualization, and that's the reason why I love Show Yourself, because it's showing herself to herself. It's showing herself that, you know, she has got enough self-awareness and self-control that she can actually, like, genuinely let it go. She can start to explore new aspects of herself and actually progress, and the one that she was looking for all this time was herself, and that's such a powerful message to me. Like, that is so strong, that the person that you were looking for is you. That is beautiful and amazing, and, like, looking too far back into the past is what's damaging, and I think that's incredibly powerful. Anna's journey was all about, like, learning to be independent, and, like, when you realise that she's been trying to get through a closed door all of her life, and the door's open now, but she's still trying to get through that door. She hasn't progressed into herself and being a unique entity without her sister. And as a sister and someone who really loves my sisters, like, I get that so much. Like, that, I really connect with that, because trying to be your independent self while also genuinely loving and caring for people in such a deep way is really challenging, and actually coming to a conclusion in maturity where you can have both sides of it, where you can love someone completely and also genuinely choose a different path, is something that I still struggle with. Like, it's still something that I struggle with. I loved the existentialism of Olaf, and I loved the fact that a lot of, so Let It Go and Show Yourself are obviously meant to be parallel songs, while Olaf's songs obviously parallel the ones to the first one, where the whole thing is it's dripping with irony. And I think that's part of the reason why the first one and the second one work very differently, where the first one, it's the irony of a snowman wanting to think about sunlight. That children can understand that, and that's why it's funny for children. For this one, his one about being an adult, and he'll understand it all when an adult, is such, like, it speaks deeply to anyone who suffered from anxiety or depression or existential dread. Like, it is the idea of managing anxiety, and it's fascinating, and it's like it's something that only adults will really get, that he'll understand it when he grow up. Like children might actually genuinely take this literally, and I love that they're both ironic parallels. I'm gonna run out of space and I've still got so much to say. I love the power ballad. I love the fact that we managed to get into the sort of psychology of the male characters in this. The fact that Olaf is in many ways a representation of the relationship between Anna and Elsa. He is kind of almost their care doll. He's created by Elsa in her moment of like fear and desperation and isolation as a representation of the relationship between Elsa and Anna. But in this one, he genuinely has somehow created his own sense of entity. He's his own entity. He is intelligent, independent life. So that's why the death sequence is so mortifying, the death sequence, because it's not just this very articulated real character, but it's also this representation of the sisters' relationship. And that's why one of the problems I've heard that people have said that it's like that beautiful, really emotive song that Anna sings is crying for the wrong character. And it's not, because Olaf is a character and it's very sad that he dies. I don't really care about him that much, but he is a representation of when Elsa runs away and creates Olaf. It's her like reaching out and rediscovering her connection to her sister. He represents their childhood, and it's a representation of the fears of childhood dying. And there's so much in this film. There is so much in this film, and I'm not going to be able to say it all in this video because I will run out of space. But if you guys want me to talk about this more, I will talk about this more. If you want me to break down specific ideas, I've got lots of ideas rolling through my head, and the more I think about it, the more I come up with. But I really love this film, and it hit home a lot harder than I was expecting, and a lot harder than the first film. Visually, it's stunning. Again, the songs don't have the same immediate likability, but for me, this film said so much more, and I relate to it so heavily. Good job, Disney. Good job. And again, I have an odd experience as a sister of sisters, and as a member of a generation that does have a lot of knowledge of anxiety and stress and depression, and so much of the coding in this film is about careful depression management, and like I maybe it was just me reading into it, but things like Olaf says this is about, he gets like all the like crystals put into his face, and this is controlling the things you can, and I was like, yes it is. Anyway, if you guys want me to talk about this more, I will break down specific things if you guys want. I'm not by any means a Disney theory vlogger, whatever, or I haven't done movie reviews for a long time, but this has stuck with me, and I wanted to do something today that made me feel like productive, because I've been in a procrastination hole for life all day long, and it's 2 AM, and I just wanted to do something to kind of clear my space and make me feel like I did something productive. But yeah, this film rocked my socks, and I just wanted to say I liked it more than the first one, which is very unpopular, but that's what I'm saying. Thank you for watching. Feel free to comment. I'll see you guys soon.